Welcome to another episode of Conversational Pace. Today we have the North Face Vectiv Enduris 4. And as we were just talking offline, and which is now the greatest title of all time for this episode, is this the first trail super trainer? We will dive into everything about the Enduris 4 right now. Actually, not right now. Right before we start, I want to let everyone know that these shoes were provided to us by the North Face, but we're under no financial obligation to say whether we like a product or not because we want to keep these reviews authentic and beneficial for you. Nobody will get to preview or watch this footage before it gets published to YouTube. Finn, can you tell that I drank a Red Bull right before the start of this?
Hey, as someone who is also navigating the early stages of parenthood, I understand strategic usage of caffeine late into the afternoon. I'm also on a similar bender. I'm on a double espresso right now, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I got to get through this 9-month sleep regression somehow.
Somehow every month has a possible regression to it. Like if you look on the internet, there's a regression for every month. I don't even know.
Oh yeah, dude. Benji's been on a 4-month sleep regression for the last 5 months now. But that's okay. We've got ways to get through it and adjust. North Face, Vectiv, Enduris 4. Little shoe stat rundown. We're looking at $160 price tag. My pair, which is a US men's size 10, weighs 10.7 ounces or 304 grams. Stack height, we're looking at 26 millimeters in the forefoot, 32 millimeters in the heel for a 6 millimeter drop. The upper of this shoe is it's a really wide weave engineered mesh that, let's see what I'll do.
ASMR.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a plasticky feel to it, but it does bend and move like very similarly to a much thicker, softer knit engineered mesh. We've got a
Little starchy.
decently burly. Oh, what?
Little starchy, just a little bit.
Yeah, definitely a little starchy. We got a little bit of a TPU toe bumper that's got some moderate protection overlay that extends out to the forefoot. And then we also have some like strategic TPU overlays just going along the eyelets just to add a little bit of strength. And there's some stuff along the heel cup for maybe added durability or / just style points. I'm not really sure. The tongue is kind of a thin to moderate padded tongue that is gusseted. We do have the greatest laces of all time. What did we call these in the Vectiv Pro 2? Like speed nubs?
Yeah.
The ribbed laces. That's what it was. Happy to see North Face adding the ribbed laces. We have a pretty traditional heel cup with kind of a moderate amount of padding as well as a stiff heel counter in the back. It really is a pretty no frills, like non-flashy upper. Also, side note, Finn, it's really funny that you again got the more boring of the two colorways.
I actually, I like neutrals to begin with. If it was an all red or an all yellow, whatever, I'd take issue. But I like the gray here.
I do not request this. I don't ever put in color requests, and like that's just what they sent. So I don't know. It must be like a Utah vibe or something. I'm not sure.
For the brands out there, I love the neutrals.
Yeah, well, it's good that we have both colorways. The midsole is fun. It is definitely pretty different from any of the previous Enduris models. We now get the upgrade to the Dream midsole foam, which also for 2025 has been updated. So this is now a nitro EVA TPU blended midsole foam. So even though, last year's North Face Altamesa 500 also has Dream foam, that's just nitro EVA. So this one now has a little bit of TPU blended into it, which is supposed to help with responsiveness as well as durability. The midsole foam is also shaped in a way that's very reminiscent of the Vectiv Pro 2, and I guess the upcoming Vectiv Pro 3, which is, a pretty long rocker in the forefoot as well as a slight heel rocker. We see a completely new plate design, which I learned is actually the same exact top plate that is in the Vectiv Pro 3. The Vectiv Pro 3 also has a second plate that's carbon fiber. This one just has the top plate, which is I believe is a TPU top plate that I got to hold just the plate at TRE, and it's actually very flexible, like when it's in the shoe. But any spot where the spot where it does have stiffness is right where you see the added wings, and it's more for that lateral stability, mostly in the forefoot. The wings, as you can see, have changed pretty drastically from what we've seen in the prior Vectiv Pro 1 and 2 models. The expansion of these wings is supposed to help with comfort. It's also supposed to help with stability as well. As that was like, this plate is, as they described, like it's a non-propulsive plate. It's a stability plate. So that's I guess one of the elements that keeps the shoe outside of like the pure race category. We'll
Yep.
talk about whether it is a race shoe in a little bit. The outsole is still North Face's surface control rubber, but we did see a slightly bigger lug height, 4 millimeter lugs, which are all, it's one piece outsole, and we've got some pretty big edge lugs and then smaller lugs down the middle. I think that's it for the materials. Finn, what kind of running did you get in this shoe?
I love how we're leading the way in the figurative ingredient label of shoe testing. I got 84 miles, 21,200 feet of climbing, a little over 13 hours time on feet. Almost all of it was in Mill Creek Canyon here in the Salt Lake area on snowy trails. I did do one road run around Sugar House Park. Brett, I've done a lot of winter trail running sort of out of necessity. And I think I have found the fountain of youth for trail shoes, and it's running on snow-packed trails pretty much every day because, this has like, we'll get into it in a little bit, but like this has, 4 millimeter lug depth on the outsole. And I don't think I've shaved off anything, like maybe
Yeah,
a
I mean,
quarter of a mil. It's really like intact. This shoe is like the most intact shoe I've had out at this stage of testing. And I think it's mostly due to the snowpack trails. It's wild.
that makes sense. I mean, because the lugs are gonna dig into that snow or like push it out of the way, really, really easily. I bet it would take so many miles of snow running to actually wear down an outsole. I wonder if it would even be possible, or if you would blow through the upper and the midsole beforehand. But that is a good point. I ran 94 miles in these shoes, just under 15 hours of total running, and I got 15,000 feet of gain. And I ran on the roads, I ran on the treadmill, I ran on dry dirt, I ran on wet dirt. I did not run in any snow because I have not run in any snow yet this winter. It's actually been insane. There's finally supposed to be a storm coming next week, but like legit last week, like it was kind of windy out and I was getting blasted by dust like during the summertime. So complete opposite as you in terms of outsole wear. I'm seeing a little bit, but nothing out of the ordinary, I would say, for 94 miles of running. I am glad that I did test the shoe across a ton of different surfaces. I also did lots of different types of running. I actually ran in this shoe, I think for every run, 2 weeks straight. So it was just continuously just putting the shoe on every single day, which I haven't done that in a really long time. And I think I might start doing that a little bit more moving forward with the testing, where like I'll try and make sure to wear one shoe every single day for at least, a 7-day period, because I learned I learned a little bit about like how resilient this foam is, in terms of like what it feels like the next day, when maybe I should have given it that extra day of rest.
That's a
Um,
great finding.
I also did, some harder workouts in the shoe, followed up by like an easy recovery run the next day. And yeah, I think I definitely learned some good things about this shoe.
Because it's marketed as a single quiver shoe, so to know to be able to communicate that foam resilience to this audience, especially people want to buy just like one shoe to rule them all, that's
Mhm.
key.
Absolutely, yeah. So I really wanted to test if this could be that single shoe quiver for the trails, and I guess potentially even not trails, even though, yeah, I would say if you're predominantly on the trails, this might be a one shoe for everything type of shoe. In terms of the upper and the fit, I guess first thing, how did you feel about the sizing?
true to size, and I would say it is. If you look at the shape here, there's actually like on first look, there's a lot of width through the heel and the midfoot, and it looks as though it narrows up here, and it kind of does, but there is enough splaying for sort of like the big toe and the pinky toe, and I felt like it was generally a medium to high volume shoe.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there. My size 10 felt true to size, generous, room in the midfoot and heel, not too much though. And then just like the Altamesa, it looks very pointy, but the actual full width right under the forefoot is pretty generous. I think the only people that are going to run potentially into issues is if you really do like demand a large amount of toe splay. And if that's the case, then you're probably still pretty limited to like Ultra, Topo,
Topo.
maybe a couple of the New Balance models.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say like pretty medium fit overall, good length. I was very pleasantly surprised with how comfortable this slightly starchier upper ended up being. I didn't notice it. It has no stretching, no additional signs of wear. And it's definitely an upper that I think is going to drain very well, even though I didn't get it wet. And one of my reasons for thinking that it's going to drain really well is there was some runs here where like it was straight up warm out, and like my feet were definitely sweating a little bit, but the upper was not damp when
Yeah.
I got done with the run. And usually those shoes, like Nike's Agama, for example, is a shoe that definitely, or an upper that holds moisture a little bit more. This just doesn't seem like one of those. What else? Oh, I thought the just the overall lacing system and the lockdown was awesome. Just like, we had praised this with the Vectiv Pro 2, where once you tied the shoe and, laced it up, it was pretty good to go. And there was no
Yeah.
amount of terrain that I feel like challenged the lockdown of the shoe for me.
I feel like if you're not using the BOA system or if you're not using speed laces, this texture should be the default texture for all laced shoes. This was great. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
100%. Like I'm ready to take the laces out of the shoe and put them into some of my other ones because
You're coming with me.
I mean they really are. They're great. They're great laces. Yeah, no tongue slippage issues or anything like that. No heel slippage issues. And from a durability standpoint, I have like, no fraying or anything like that. What did you think of the this new Dream Foam and this new plate design?
Dude, it's really interesting. And I don't know if you're able to pull up a photo or a video from any of the TRE content where I think it's Brett Rivers who's walking you and some of the other reviewers through the shoe. But if you look at those videos, one of them I know has a demonstration where they isolate the foam and the plate of the shoe, and you can kind of see where the cutouts are and how close your foot really sits to the foam in some of those parts. Real, like you and I have been testing a soon to be announced shoe, and we just released that review around the Prodigio Pro. And so there is almost a similar take to this latest iteration of a trail super shoe that's really interesting. Obviously, you've got that plastic plate that sits under the rest of the foot with the wings, way more stable than a carbon plate. You said it's a stability plate. Totally agree. From like a propulsion standpoint, from like a rockard standpoint, you don't feel like the shoe is dragging your foot forward. I think you can bring it through a lot of paces. There is going to be some of that natural propulsion, but not in a reckless way. I think it's important to note, and I think you said this too, this model has more stack height than I think the previous model by, is it a couple of millimeters? I think it's a couple
I think they
millimeters,
said it was like 3 or 4 millimeters more stack.
3 or 4 millimeters. So I think that the plate also helps to account for that too, from a stability standpoint.
For sure, yeah.
Last thing I would say is like, I mean, you and I, we've been kind of singing praises of the Dream Foam from the rooftops and just like the plushness of it in other models. I don't think the plushness of this foam is compromised by that TPU plate. I wonder if it's because of the cutouts. I think other than that, great for long days. Like most of my runs I was doing were 2.5 hours plus in it. Definitely long distance comfort. So it didn't feel like an athletic shoe in a lot of weird ways. Like I did put it through some steady state paces, some tempo paces, like running uphill on trail. But yeah, other than that, like it really, I mean, overall, great experience.
Yeah, I really like this new Dream Foam. It's not mushy. I would say I thought the Prodigio Pro felt softer than this, maybe a little more responsive, whereas this felt a little denser, almost more trainer like. But when you combine this stability plate and the shape of the midsole foam, I think the shape of the midsole is an important point to bring up. The shape of this is it's very similar, to the Vectiv Pro 2. And if you've run in the Vectiv Pro 2 and wanted a slightly more relaxed forefoot rocker
Yeah.
and not as stiff of a profile, like this is absolutely that shoe. We haven't gotten to run in the Vectiv Pro 3 yet, but this Enduris 4 is very much billed as like the trainer companion to the Vectiv Pro 3. And I think it can be the trainer companion to the Vectiv Pro 2 as well, because I know there's still pairs of those floating around. I think one of the things that makes this more, daily trainer friendly is, like you said, the lack of the carbon plate. This is more flexible than the Vectiv Pro series. It's still definitely has some stiffness to it, but it is flexible enough where nothing bugged me running in it day in, day out. That was one of the big things that I wanted to test, was to see if this design would mess with my body over the course of, like running in it 2 weeks straight. And I am happy to report that this shoe was actually so easy to put on day in, day out. I was so pleasantly surprised with how this shoe felt like the day after a workout, the day after a long run, when I'm, jogging out on the ditch, recover on the ditch, hashtag,
Hashtag.
um, 10-minute pace, just like really slogging it out. And I was like, okay, it's not the softest recovery shoe in the world, but my foot's not working that hard. And I feel like I'm not getting more beat up because of this run. So all of that's to say, I think this shoe's really great at doing most of the things pretty good. Like, I might even go as far as to say is this might be one of the best do everything shoes that I've worn in conversational pace history.
Dude, that's a statement.
It is, and like the one thing that I would definitely knock it for is it's a little heavy, 10.7 ounces. That's a full ounce heavier than, the Tecton X3. It's a little bit, I think it's almost like 3/4 of an ounce heavier than the Vectiv Pro 2, maybe a full ounce. And you do feel that when you're running harder workouts. But I will say, as I've said before, when I was doing, workouts and, previous heavier models, even like the North Face, the Off Trail TR, I did some workouts in that. I was like, well, effort-based workouts you can use for you can use a heavier shoe for, like, that's fine. Especially all on the trails, all of my workouts are effort-based anyways. So like I'm not too worried about like really truly hitting a specific pace in the shoe, but I felt it did a really good job of protecting my body and allowing me to keep getting out the door.
I agree that this is like it kind of falls in that category of like a daily super trainer. And again, maybe it's just the model that I got. And by the way, for context, I am a size 12, so just by default, I have clown feet. But this and this shoe, like I couldn't help but think every time I put this shoe on that I was wearing like the North Face equivalent of I think it's like the New Balance 990, like the classic dad shoe. Like I just didn't feel like and again, this is a terrible thing to say, but I didn't feel like an athlete when I was walking out the door in this
So
shoe.
then what makes this a super trainer to you then?
All of the properties that I'm just saying the look of it.
Okay, just
It
the
is a
look.
it's a plus size shoe. Like,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, to knock on another bit, like it's North Face's Brooks Caldera in a lot of ways. Like there's just sort of that like high volume, sort of like clumsiness looking to it. Like, so don't judge a book by its cover is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So talking about trail super trainers, which is something that I feel like has not really ever been talked about. And the classification of super trainer, even on the road side, is pretty muddy, but it's generally a shoe that gives you similar benefit to a super shoe, but is just more durable and a little bit easier to wear across a wider variety of paces. But one could definitely still go race in a road super trainer. So, Finn, could you see yourself racing in this shoe?
Absolutely. I could totally yes, I could see myself running 100 milers in this shoe. Like if we're talking about a race where I need 20 plus hours time on feet, yes. I'm not going into the multi-day category, but like in like the 20 to 24 mile, or sorry, 20 to 24 hour, maybe even like mountain 100 context. Like I really do. We haven't talked a lot about the outsole, but I love this surface control pattern, the lug depth and everything. There's a unusually good amount of bite in this shoe. I would take it in like a mountain 100 miler context. And also I would say with the caveat, like if I'm sort of in that like consumer class, mid to back of the pack racing context, absolutely. Like, and I would probably take it in even more context than just a 100 miler if I was sort of in that persona.
Yeah, I could definitely see myself racing in this shoe too. I also wrote down that I could see myself throwing it on as like my like backup shoe, or like maybe I started in the carbon shoe, maybe I started in the Vectiv Pro 2, Vectiv Pro 3, if we're just staying within the North Face family, and then maybe I'm wanting a little bit more flexibility, a little bit just more relaxed of a fit, but not going just full, like Brooks Cascadia type thing. I think this would be a great shoe to throw on. I also do think though that because of everything you get in this package, like dollar for dollar, this might be one of the best trail race shoes out
160,
there.
160 is, I mean, dude, talk about for the people. It's a great price.
Exactly. Yeah. So 160, when it carries so much of the DNA from the Vectiv Pro to Vectiv Pro 3. I think it's an easy shoe to race in, even if it weighs a little bit more than the others. One thing that I forgot to talk about that I just wanted to ask is there's been so much pushback on the wings on all of the previous North Face shoes. Did you didn't have any problems with the wings in the Vectiv Pro 2?
No,
How about this one? Did this change
also not
anything?
here. Nothing was changed.
So as I think I said in the Vector Pro 2 review that every once in a while when I was on like slightly off camber terrain and one of my feet would slide like laterally to the outside of the shoe, I could feel the plate for like one or two steps, but it was never to the point where it bugged me. I still noticed that on the so like of the plate here, like there's like a forward side and a back side. The
Mm.
back side on the lateral piece, every once in a while I would step funny and the top of my foot would hit it. And I was like, okay, I felt a piece of plastic there. But it was never for more than one step at a time, never had any bruising or anything like that. So it doesn't worry me, but it does worry me if you're someone who has like a particularly wide forefoot, to the point where you might be pushing over the tops of the sidewalls and not staying within the flared edges. I think that person's still going to run into problems on this shoe.
Mm. Wait, do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
So, and I think you might have already said this, but I might have overlooked, with in terms of the similarities to the Vectiv Pro or the properties that it's borrowing, is it mostly the rocker or is it something else?
The rocker, the top plate, the Dream Foam, except the Vector Pro 3 has as an additional insert.
Right.
So this is just like pure Dream Foam. And I don't know if they're the exact same durometer or like versions of Dream Foam. Like this one might be slightly firmer, slightly softer. I'm not sure, but they both have Dream Foam. I think the Vector Pro 3 has a lighter weight, even more stripped down upper as well. And the Vector Pro 3 has even more stack.
Dude, I wonder if this is another episode where we unexpectedly bring out the Adidas Terex Speed and make the example of North Face possibly cannibalizing the Vectiv Pro series, because this shoe is pretty solid for a much lower price point.
Well, I'm definitely really excited for us to get the Vectiv Pro 3 and run in that, because that's definitely the question that I have. This shoe's really good. Is the Vectiv Pro 3 that much better? Another question that I had for you as we wrap things up, I guess maybe this is just like Brett's lukewarm take of the episode, and I'm curious to see if you agree or disagree. I don't feel like I have any need for the Altamesa 500 anymore. Like everything I would have done in the Altamesa, I would rather do in this Enduris, because I like this rocker and I like this fit and I like this foam and I like this outsole better. What do you think?
I think I agree. And actually, I have this could be a fun content idea for future conversational pace. Like maybe end of the year, we throw it in with our review episode, but we do an episode that's totally devoted to analyzing all the brands, and we look at their lines, and we either decide to consolidate or expand based on what we see as examples of possible cannibalization, or hey, here's a gap in this brand, and here's
Oh,
what
for
we
sure,
would
yeah.
do.
Yeah, we should do that at the end of the year of like which brands have too many shoes in various categories and which brands have not enough.
Solomon has this problem too, right? Like at least as of
And they're
last year,
restructuring for
and they're
2025.
restructuring. Like we were
Same with
talking about
Nike.
Thundercross, Nike. I mean, in some ways, Hoka.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah, I think it's a great question.
Yeah, that is a good one. I'm also curious to see what people who are watching this video think, like who've maybe running the Altamesa. This shoe's out right now, so maybe you've running both. Did the properties of this shoe sway you to use this over something like the Altamesa? Because I think it was a perfectly capable road shoe as well. Plenty of cushion, snappy.
I liked the
No issues.
upper on the Altamesa better. I think it's a more comfortable upper than this one, and
I'm kind of giving it a tie just because I like they were both plenty good enough for me.
yeah,
So I'm not really going one way or the other. Um, and then kind of as we had both stated before, like $160 for a race shoe, that's a pretty good racer, or $160 for what appears to be a decently high performance trainer that can also cooperate at slower paces. Pretty damn good value.
yeah.
So if you do think that this review was useful, valuable, you want to try this shoe out, and your local run specialty shop does not carry this North Face Enduris 4, feel free to use our link below in the show notes to purchase it from our friends at Running Warehouse, because your purchase helps support the channel, helps keep these reviews going. We actually just got bombarded with shoes this past
Dude,
week, so we've got some running to do. We've got some fun things.
Christmas came a month late.
Christmas came a month late, and I'm not too mad about that. This has been a fun one. I'm going to keep this one in the quiver for sure. I think this might replace the Altamesa on my shoe shelf back there, actually. Hopefully we get the Vectiv Pro 3 soon, because we definitely need to do a comparison between the two, because who knows, it might also just be the perfect like trainer racer combination, and that will be another fun category to add to our end of the year episode, is which company had the best trainer racer combo, like you said, like the Adidas Terex Agravic Speed and the Agravic Speed Ultra. I feel like North Face Enduris 4, Vectiv Pro 3. But let us know what you think. Catch everyone in the next episode of Conversational Pace.
That was fun.